Location and reputation. Black Dolphin Prison, officially known as Penal Colony Number 6, is one of the most feared and heavily guarded correctional facilities in the world. It is located near the Russian-Kazakh border in the Orenburg Oblast region, a remote and desolate area far from any major cities. The prison's name, Black Dolphin, originates from a macabre, yet symbolic statue, a black dolphin sculpture crafted by the inmates themselves, which now stand at the entrance as a haunting reminder of the suffering within. The prison was originally established in the 18th century under the Russian Empire, and has since evolved into a maximum security facility designed to house the country's most violent and dangerous criminals. Over time, it has gained an infamous reputation not only within Russia, but across the world, as one of the harshest and most psychologically devastating places of incarceration. Black Dolphin is often compared to the United States ADX Florence Supermax prison, but in many ways, it is considered even more brutal due to its extreme conditions and the psychological toll it takes on its inmates. What sets Black Dolphin apart is its absolute lack of hope for those inside. Every prisoner is serving a life sentence, meaning no one will ever leave its walls except in a coffin. This distinction makes it different from most high-security prisons, where inmates at least have the possibility of parole, appeal, or some form of rehabilitation. Here, there is none. Prisoners are not just isolated from society, but from the very idea of a future. Despite its secrecy, Black Dolphin has gained attention from international media, including documentaries and investigative reports that have shed light on its operations. Journalists who have been granted rare access describe it as a place devoid of humanity, a fortress where men are reduced to nothing more than numbered bodies in cells, waiting for their inevitable end. Many call it the prison where hope goes to die, not just because of the life sentences, but because of the sheer psychological and physical torment that inmates endure daily. The facility is so secure that no one has ever successfully escaped from Black Dolphin. The Russian government ensures that only the most dangerous and irredeemable criminals are sent there, further solidifying its reputation as the final stop for those who have committed the most heinous crimes. The prison has become a symbol of Russia's unforgiving penal system, where justice is served with an iron fist, and mercy is a foreign concept. Inmate population. The inmates of Black Dolphin Prison are not just criminals. They're the worst offenders in Russian history. Men who have committed crimes so horrifying that society has deemed them unworthy of redemption. This facility is home to serial killers, cannibals, rapists, terrorists, and mass murderers. Many of these individuals are responsible for multiple deaths, with some having killed dozens of people in the most brutal ways imaginable. Their crimes are often so extreme that even among criminals, they're considered the worst of the worst. Each prisoner at Black Dolphin has a story soaked in violence, betrayal, and horror. Some are leaders of organized crime syndicates, orchestrating assassinations and mass killings. Others were lone predators who spent years evading law enforcement while leaving a trail of victims behind them. Then there are the terrorists, those who have bombed public places, murdered innocent civilians, and waged war against the state. Many inmates were caught after committing acts so atrocious that their names became infamous across Russia and beyond. One of the most terrifying aspects of Black Dolphin is the sheer number of victims represented within its walls. Collectively, the inmates are responsible for the deaths of thousands of people. Some prisoners have been convicted of crimes that include torturing their victims before killing them, while others were involved in human trafficking, child exploitation, and even acts of cannibalism. To the Russian government, these are individuals who cannot be rehabilitated, only contained. The psychological makeup of these inmates is another chilling factor. Many of them show no remorse for their actions. Interviews with prisoners have revealed cold, emotionless recounts of their crimes, with some even boasting about the brutality of their deeds. For these men, Black Dolphin is not just a prison. It is a final destination, a place where they're locked away not only to suffer, but to be forgotten. Despite the strict security measures and constant surveillance, Black Dolphin is still a place of deep paranoia. The inmates are fully aware that every man around them is capable of extreme violence. The guards enforce order with an iron grip, but the presence of so many dangerous individuals in one place creates a suffocating atmosphere. There are no friendships here, no alliances, only survival in the face of an existence stripped of all humanity. For the outside world, these prisoners are nothing more than monsters who deserve the punishment they endure. But for those within the walls of Black Dolphin, they are simply men who have been condemned to spend the rest of their days in the most extreme form of isolation, where even death might seem like a release that, no parole, no escape. Once a prisoner is sent to Black Dolphin, their fate is sealed. There are no second chances, no appeals that can set them free, and no parole board that will ever consider their case. Every single inmate within these walls has been sentenced to life imprisonment, meaning they will never see the outside world again. Unlike many prison systems where inmates may hope for an early release due to good behavior, rehabilitation programs, or legal technicalities, Black Dolphin offers no such possibility. The sentence is absolute and final. Death in confinement is the only certainty. The Russian penal system is known for its severity, and Black Dolphin stands as the ultimate representation of this. It is a facility specifically designed for those considered too dangerous to ever rejoin society. The crimes of its inmates are so extreme that the Russian government has deemed any form of release not only a risk to the public, but an insult to justice itself. The absence of parole reinforces the idea that Black Dolphin is not a prison in the traditional sense. It is a place of permanent exile, where men are locked away until their bodies finally fail. Escape is not an option. Black Dolphin is one of the most secure prisons in the world, and its design ensures that no inmate has ever managed to break free. The facility is surrounded by high walls, barbed wire, and armed guards, but what truly makes escape impossible is the internal structure of the prison itself. Each cell is fortified with multiple layers of steel bars, with prisoners confined behind heavy doors that remain locked at all times. The movement of inmates is so tightly controlled that they have no opportunity to even dream of an escape attempt. Whenever a prisoner is taken out of their cell, they are blindfolded and forced to bend at a 90-degree angle, their hands cuffed behind their backs while guards escort them. This practice ensures that they never learn the layout of the prison, eliminating any possibility of planning an escape route. Even within their cells, prisoners are under constant surveillance, with cameras monitoring them 24/7. There are no blind spots, no moments where an inmate can act without being seen. Guards operate under strict orders and employ a zero-tolerance policy for any sign of resistance or defiance. The prison staff are among the most highly trained in Russia's penal system, and they do not take risks. Any sign of rebellion is immediately crushed with overwhelming force. The inmates, knowing this, rarely attempt to challenge the system. They understand that in Black Dolphin, there is no leniency, no chance to exploit weaknesses, only complete submission to the absolute authority of the prison. Even if an inmate were to somehow bypass the internal security measures, the external environment provides another insurmountable obstacle. Black Dolphin is located in an isolated region near the Russian-Kazakh border, far from major population centers. The vast, barren landscape surrounding the prison offers little chance of survival for anyone attempting to flee. The brutal winters, lack of resources, and heavy military presence in the area ensure that any escapee would be caught or die trying. The reality of Black Dolphin is clear. It is a place where prisoners are buried alive, their lives reduced to an endless cycle of monotony, discipline, and psychological torment. The lack of parole and the impossibility of escape mean that once a man enters Black Dolphin, he is no longer part of the world. His existence is confined to a tiny cell, his fate sealed by the iron will of the Russian penal system, brutal security measures. Black Dolphin Prison is not just a maximum security facility. It is a fortress designed to ensure that its inmates remain under absolute control at all times. The security measures in place are some of the most extreme in the world, stripping prisoners of any sense of autonomy, privacy, or hope. Every aspect of their daily existence is micromanaged, ensuring that they remain in a state of complete submission to the prison's authority. One of the most striking and infamous security measures of Black Dolphin is the way inmates are transported within the prison. Whenever a prisoner is moved from one area to another, they are blindfolded, shackled, and forced to bend at a 90-degree angle with their hands cuffed behind their backs. 2 guards escort them, holding their arms in a vice-like grip while a 3rd officer walks behind them. This position is designed to achieve multiple purposes. It prevents prisoners from memorizing the layout of the prison, making escape impossible. It keeps them in a position of weakness, ensuring they cannot attack the guards or resist movement, and it psychologically reinforces their powerlessness. Cells at Black Dolphin are another layer of the prison's extreme security. Each inmate is housed in a tiny, windowless concrete cell that measures just 4.5 square meters, about 48 square feet. These cells are designed for maximum confinement, with prisoners locked behind multiple layers of bars. The first set of bars separates the cell from the main corridor, and another set is installed within the cell itself, creating a cage within a cage structure. Unlike traditional prison cells, which often have a bed and some minimal furniture, the cells in Black Dolphin are deliberately sparse. Prisoners sleep on a metal bunk bolted to the wall, with only a thin mattress. A small table and stool are also fixed in place, ensuring there are no loose objects that could be used as weapons. One of the most oppressive aspects of Black Dolphin security is the 24/7 surveillance system. Every cell is equipped with multiple cameras, allowing guards to monitor inmates at all times. There are no blind spots, no places where a prisoner can act without being watched. Even when using the toilet, inmates are under constant observation. The psychological impact of this level of surveillance is immense. It strips prisoners of any sense of privacy, reinforcing their status as nothing more than captives under absolute control. The prison's daily regimen is strictly enforced, with no room for deviation. Inmates are required to follow a rigid schedule that includes standing at attention in their cells every hour when guards conduct inspections. They are not allowed to lie down or rest during the day unless specifically instructed to do so. Meals are provided through a small opening in the cell door, eliminating direct interaction between inmates and prison staff. To further prevent any form of rebellion or coordinated resistance, prisoners are kept in complete isolation from one another. Unlike other prisons where inmates may have limited social interactions, Black Dolphin ensures that prisoners never communicate with each other. There are no shared spaces, no common areas, and no moments of conversation. Each inmate is completely alone, trapped in a world of silence and strict routine. Guards are trained to treat inmates with absolute discipline, never engaging in casual conversation or showing sympathy. Their orders are clear: enforce total control and eliminate any chance of resistance. Any sign of defiance is met with swift and brutal consequences. Prisoners who attempt to break the rules face severe punishments, including further restrictions and isolation. The entire structure of Black Dolphin is built around the concept of breaking the human spirit. It is not just about physical confinement. It is about psychological domination. The strict security measures, constant surveillance, isolation, and rigid discipline create an environment where inmates are stripped of their identity and reduced to mere numbers. The goal is not rehabilitation or even punishment in the traditional sense. It is total control, ensuring that those inside Black Dolphin will never again pose a threat to society. Extreme isolation. One of the most defining and psychologically devastating aspects of Black Dolphin Prison is the extreme level of isolation imposed on its inmates. Unlike other prisons where prisoners may have limited social interactions, structured activities, or even the ability to communicate with fellow inmates, Black Dolphin ensures that every prisoner exists in total solitude. From the moment an inmate enters this prison, they are cut off from the world, both physically and mentally. Each inmate is confined to a tiny windowless cell that measures approximately 4.5 square meters, 48 square feet. These cells are not just small. They're designed to ensure that prisoners experience the harshest possible form of isolation. The walls are thick, bare concrete, and the only source of light comes from artificial prison lighting, which remains on 24 hours a day. There are no windows, no view of the outside world, and no natural light, making it impossible for prisoners to even keep track of time. This environment creates a sense of timelessness, where days, months, and years blur together into an endless cycle of confinement. Prisoners are never allowed to interact with each other. Unlike most high-security prisons where inmates may have controlled opportunities to speak or see one another, Black Dolphin ensures complete separation at all times. Each cell is a cage within a cage, with multiple layers of bars preventing any form of physical contact. Even when an inmate is moved outside of their cell for exercise or other purposes, they're kept isolated, blindfolded, and shackled to prevent them from even catching a glimpse of another prisoner. The psychological effects of this extreme isolation are profound. Human beings are social creatures, and prolonged isolation has been shown to cause severe mental distress. Inmates at Black Dolphin often experience depression, anxiety, paranoia, and a gradual decline in cognitive function. Without any form of human interaction, prisoners lose their sense of identity and reality. Some have reported talking to themselves or hallucinating, as the absence of external stimuli causes the mind to create its own distorted version of reality. Even when prisoners exercise, they're not given any form of relief from isolation. Each inmate is allowed 90 minutes of exercise per day, but this is not in an open yard or communal area. Instead, they are taken, still shackled and blindfolded, to a small, enclosed cage-like space where they're allowed to pace back and forth under heavy guard supervision. There is no interaction with other prisoners, no access to fresh air beyond what seeps through the heavily secured outdoor area, and no break from the overwhelming sense of confinement. This daily routine is their only moment outside of their cell, but even this is done in complete isolation. Communication with the outside world is also severely restricted. Unlike other prisons where inmates might be allowed phone calls, letters, or occasional visits from family members, Black Dolphin's policies are far more severe. Prisoners rarely, if ever, receive visits, and in many cases, their families completely sever ties, knowing they will never be released. The prison does not allow any access to newspapers, television, or radio, meaning inmates have no knowledge of what is happening beyond their concrete walls. Time becomes meaningless, and any connection to the outside world is lost. This level of isolation serves a clear purpose: to break the prisoner's spirit. In Black Dolphin, inmates are not just physically confined, they are psychologically stripped of their humanity. They exist in a world where every day is the same, where they have no hope, no companionship, and no future. The prison's design ensures that every man inside is reduced to a mere existence, waiting for death in the silent void of their cell. Constant surveillance. At Black Dolphin Prison, no prisoner is ever truly alone. While they may be physically isolated from one another, they are under constant, unrelenting surveillance, watched every moment of every day by an advanced security system and highly trained guards. There are no blind spots, no places to hide, and no moments of privacy. From the second an inmate enters Black Dolphin, they are placed under an oppressive system of observation that ensures absolute control over their every move. Each cell is equipped with multiple surveillance cameras, strategically placed to cover every angle. Unlike in many other prisons where there may be occasional gaps in supervision, Black Dolphin's monitoring system is designed to be all-seeing. Whether an inmate is standing, sitting, or even using the toilet, they're being watched. There is no way to escape the scrutiny of the guards. This round-the-clock surveillance is meant to do more than just maintain security. It is a psychological weapon, reinforcing the idea that prisoners have lost every last trace of autonomy. The prison's guards are among the most highly trained in Russia's penal system, and they are well aware of the men they are dealing with. Every inmate in Black Dolphin is a violent criminal, many of them serial killers, mass murderers, or terrorists, so there is no room for error. Guards rotate in shifts to ensure complete vigilance, and they never let their guard down. Any deviation from the strict rules is met with immediate disciplinary action. Each prisoner must adhere to a strict routine, which is rigidly enforced through surveillance and hourly checks. Every hour, guards conduct inspections, during which prisoners must stand at attention facing the door of their cell. They're not allowed to lie down or rest during the day unless specifically instructed to do so. These inspections are relentless, and they serve two purposes. They prevent prisoners from attempting any form of rebellion or self-harm, and they serve as a constant reminder that they are under absolute control. When an inmate is moved within the prison, security measures become even more extreme. Prisoners are blindfolded, shackled, and bent at a 90-degree angle while being escorted by multiple guards. This ensures that they cannot memorize the layout of the prison, preventing any potential escape plans. Even during these transfers, guards remain on high alert, scanning for any signs of defiance or resistance. Even the prison's exercise policy is heavily controlled. Unlike in most prisons where inmates might have some level of freedom in a yard, Black Dolphin inmates are escorted to small, caged outdoor enclosures, which are monitored by guards at all times. There is no opportunity for inmates to communicate with one another, no space for unsupervised movement. Every moment outside their cell is as controlled and scrutinized as the moments within it. This level of surveillance extends beyond physical security. It is also designed to break down any sense of personal freedom. Knowing that they are always being watched, prisoners lose any illusion of privacy. The human mind struggles under such conditions, and many inmates experience psychological deterioration as a result. With no opportunity to act without being monitored, prisoners are forced into a state of complete submission, where their very existence is dictated by the relentless gaze of the security system. The purpose of this extreme surveillance is clear: to maintain absolute order and eliminate any possibility of resistance. In Black Dolphin, there is no room for disobedience, no opportunity for rebellion, and no chance for escape. Every breath, every movement, and every thought is under the control of the prison's strict security apparatus. The result is an environment of total domination, where prisoners are not just confined but completely subjugated under the ever-watchful eyes of those who control their fate. Psychological and physical toll on inmates. Black Dolphin Prison is not just a facility designed to confine criminals. It is a machine built to systematically break the human spirit. The combination of extreme isolation, constant surveillance, lack of hope, and severe physical conditions creates an environment that crushes prisoners mentally, emotionally, and physically. The Russian government does not view Black Dolphin as a place of rehabilitation, but rather as a permanent cage for those deemed too dangerous to ever re-enter society. As a result, the conditions inside are not meant to sustain human dignity, but to strip it away, leaving inmates as mere shadows of their former selves. The psychological impact. One of the most devastating aspects of life in Black Dolphin is the absence of human interaction. Inmates are cut off from the outside world, from fellow prisoners, and even from meaningful conversations with the guards. There is no talking, no companionship, and no distractions from the crushing monotony of prison life. Over time, this total isolation can lead to psychological decay. Many prisoners experience severe depression, anxiety, paranoia, and hallucinations. The human brain is wired for social connection, and when that is taken away, it begins to deteriorate. Some inmates start talking to themselves or hearing voices, a result of prolonged sensory deprivation. Others experience severe mood swings, delusions, or emotional numbness, losing the ability to feel anything beyond the overwhelming emptiness of their existence. The constant surveillance and rigid routine add another layer of mental strain. Prisoners know they are always being watched when they sleep, when they eat, even when they use the toilet. This complete lack of privacy makes it impossible to relax or escape from the reality of their situation. Many prisoners develop insomnia, unable to sleep under the unblinking eyes of security cameras and the ever-present fluorescent lights. Sleep deprivation further worsens their mental state, leading to extreme fatigue, confusion, and even suicidal thoughts. For most inmates, the realization that they will never leave the prison alive is perhaps the most crushing psychological burden. Unlike in other prisons where there might be a possibility of parole, appeal, or early release, Black Dolphin offers no future, no second chances. The idea that they are simply waiting for death, whether it comes from illness, old age, or the slow erosion of their own sanity, is enough to push many prisoners into complete mental collapse. The physical toll. The harsh conditions at Black Dolphin do not only affect the mind, they take a serious toll on the body as well. The cells are cold, cramped, and uncomfortable, offering no relief from the harsh Russian winters. Prisoners sleep on thin mattresses over metal bunks, with no pillows or blankets thick enough to provide real warmth. The temperature in the prison can drop to freezing levels, and there is no heating system designed for comfort, only the bare minimum needed to keep the inmates alive. Prisoners are fed just enough to survive, but never enough to thrive. The typical diet consists of thin soup and bread, a meal that is repeated every single day without variation. There are no special meals, no treats, and no additional rations for good behavior. This diet lacks essential nutrients, leading to muscle loss, extreme weight loss, and a general decline in health. Inmates grow weak over time, their bodies deteriorating along with their minds. Even though prisoners are allowed 90 minutes of exercise per day, this is hardly enough to maintain physical strength. The exercise yard is nothing more than a small, enclosed outdoor cage, where inmates can only pace back and forth under strict supervision. There is no access to gym equipment, no ability to build muscle, and no variety in physical activity. As a result, most prisoners become frail, their bodies wasting away due to lack of proper movement and nutrition. Long-term confinement in such conditions leads to chronic illnesses and accelerated aging. Many prisoners develop joint pain, arthritis, weakened immune systems, and other medical complications due to prolonged inactivity and malnutrition. Medical care is minimal, provided only when absolutely necessary, and there is no priority placed on comfort or long-term health. Many prisoners die prematurely due to untreated illnesses, malnutrition, or the sheer physical toll of decades spent in such an inhumane environment. The complete breakdown of the human spirit. By stripping inmates of human connection, hope, and physical well-being, Black Dolphin ensures that every prisoner becomes a mere shell of their former self. The combination of mental anguish, physical decay, and complete submission to an unchanging, oppressive routine creates an existence that is almost worse than death. In many ways, the prison is not just a place of confinement. It is a slow-motion execution chamber, where inmates are forced to endure years of suffering before their bodies finally give out. There is no relief, no comfort, and no dignity inside Black Dolphin. Prisoners are left to rot, both mentally and physically, in a place that has been specifically engineered to strip them of everything that makes them human. The regimented and dehumanizing daily routine. At Black Dolphin Prison, there is no such thing as free time, personal choice, or even a moment of true rest. Every second of every day is strictly regimented, designed not just to maintain security, but to systematically break down the inmate's sense of self. Life inside the prison follows an unchanging, rigid routine that allows for no individuality or deviation. Inmates do not get to decide when they wake up, when they eat, when they exercise, or even how they move. Every movement is dictated by the prison's rules, reinforcing the idea that they are no longer human beings, but mere numbers in an inescapable system. The unrelenting schedule. The day begins early at Black Dolphin. Prisoners are woken up at 6 a.m. sharp, and from that moment on, they are under constant direct supervision. Unlike in many other prisons where inmates may have some degree of personal space in their cells, Black Dolphin operates under a far more extreme level of control. As soon as they wake up, prisoners must stand at attention in their cramped, windowless cells. They're not allowed to stretch, move freely, or lie back down. Guards patrol the corridors, making sure that every inmate is in the correct posture, facing forward in total submission. Throughout the day, prisoners are subjected to hourly inspections. Every 60 minutes, without exception, inmates must again stand at attention while guards conduct checks. These inspections serve two primary purposes. First, they ensure that prisoners remain in a state of total discipline, preventing any possibility of defiance or rebellion. Second, they act as a form of psychological conditioning, reinforcing the idea that prisoners have no control over their own existence. A life of absolute control. Unlike in many other prisons where inmates may be allowed some form of leisure time, such as reading books, watching television, or participating in limited social activities, Black Dolphin eliminates all such privileges. There are no books, no newspapers, no radio, no television, and no outside entertainment. Prisoners are left alone with nothing but their own thoughts, day after day, year after year. Meals at Black Dolphin are equally regimented and stripped of any pleasure or choice. Inmates receive a strictly controlled diet consisting of thin soup and bread. The food is designed purely for sustenance. There are no luxuries, no variety, and no sense of enjoyment. Each meal is given through a small slot in the cell door, further reinforcing the complete lack of human contact. There is no communal dining hall, no chance for prisoners to interact while eating, and no opportunity for even the smallest bit of normalcy. Every aspect of eating is controlled, down to the way food is delivered. Prisoners are also expected to maintain a rigid posture and demeanor at all times. They cannot relax, lie down, or sit in a comfortable position unless explicitly allowed. Any deviation from the expected behavior is met with immediate discipline. The strictly monitored exercise routine. Every prisoner is allowed 90 minutes of exercise per day, but even this is not a break from the harsh routine. It is simply another controlled aspect of their existence. Inmates are escorted from their cells in the same dehumanizing manner they experience during all movements. Blindfolded, shackled, and bent at a 90-degree angle with their arms restrained behind their backs. Once they arrive at the designated exercise area, they're placed into a small, enclosed cage-like space, with no interaction with other inmates and no access to anything beyond the bare minimum movement allowed. This is not a gym or an open yard. It is simply a barren enclosure, surrounded by high walls and wire fencing, where they are permitted to walk back and forth under strict guard supervision. They're not allowed to run freely, lift weights, or engage in any activities that might give them a sense of physical strength or self-improvement. Exercise at Black Dolphin is not a privilege. It is merely a biological necessity to keep them alive for continued punishment. Sleep deprivation and the cycle of control. Even when prisoners are allowed to sleep, their rest is strictly controlled. There are no comfortable beds, pillows, or proper blankets. Only a thin mattress laid on a hard metal bunk, bolted to the wall to prevent any modifications. The prison's bright artificial lights remain on 24 hours a day, making it impossible for inmates to experience natural darkness or a true sense of night and day. This constant exposure to artificial light disrupts their circadian rhythm, leading to severe sleep deprivation over time. Surveillance cameras remain trained on each prisoner at all times, ensuring that even in their most vulnerable state, they are never outside the gaze of the prison's unrelenting watch. The pressure of being constantly observed, never allowed true rest, and never given a break from the strict routine takes a devastating toll on both the body and the mind. A life reduced to mechanical existence. At Black Dolphin, inmates are not treated as individuals, but as living objects under constant discipline. Every action, every breath, every movement is regulated by the prison's strict system of control. There is no space for personality, no opportunities for expression, and no moments of genuine human connection. The daily routine is not designed just to keep prisoners in line. It is designed to erase their sense of self, making them nothing more than prisoners of a machine-like system. This strict, monotonous schedule continues day after day, without change for the rest of their lives. There are no weekends, no holidays, no breaks, and no changes in routine. Time becomes meaningless, And for the men inside Black Dolphin, existence is reduced to nothing more than survival within a system built to strip them of their humanity. In no hope for rehabilitation or release. In most prisons around the world, even those serving life sentences hold on to some sliver of hope, whether it's the possibility of parole, a legal appeal, or even the basic human belief in redemption. But inside Black Dolphin Prison, such hopes are not just unrealistic. They are completely non-existent. This prison is not a place for reform, rehabilitation, or second chances. It is a permanent cage designed to ensure that its inmates will never again step outside its walls as free men. A sentence that guarantees death in prison. The inmates of Black Dolphin are some of the most dangerous criminals in Russia: serial killers, terrorists, mass murderers, and cannibals. The Russian government does not view these prisoners as people who can be rehabilitated. Instead, they are seen as irreversibly dangerous individuals, too great a threat to ever rejoin society. Life sentences at Black Dolphin truly mean life, with no chance of parole or reduced sentencing. Unlike in other countries where life sentences sometimes include parole hearings after a certain number of years, Russia's legal system offers no such leniency for the prisoners of Black Dolphin. Once an inmate is sentenced and arrives at the prison, they are there until the day they die. There's no appeal process that can set them free. Even in cases where new evidence emerges, proving that an inmate may have been wrongfully convicted, the bureaucratic and legal hurdles to overturn a sentence are nearly impossible to clear. Prisoners are fully aware of this reality. The moment they step into Black Dolphin, they know they will never leave, and this knowledge has a profound psychological effect. Some inmates lose their sense of time, no longer keeping track of days, months, or even years. Others completely shut down emotionally, existing in a state of perpetual numbness, knowing that they are merely waiting for their inevitable death. A system that rejects reform. Most prison systems include at least some efforts toward rehabilitation, whether through education programs, work opportunities, or counseling. The idea is that even if an inmate is serving life, they may still have the opportunity to contribute in some way to improve their mind or to engage in meaningful activities that bring a sense of purpose. None of that exists at Black Dolphin. There are no rehabilitation programs, no education opportunities, and no prison jobs. Inmates are not given access to vocational training, literacy programs, or even religious services. This is by design. Black Dolphin is not meant to create better people, only to contain them until they die. The Russian penal system does not see these prisoners as individuals who can be redeemed, but as permanent threats who must be locked away forever. Even in the rare cases where an inmate shows remorse or attempts self-improvement, it does not matter. There is no reward for good behavior, no reduction in sentence for compliance, and no change in conditions even if a prisoner maintains a perfect disciplinary record for decades. The prison does not recognize personal growth, change, or regret. For Black Dolphin's inmates, the past defines them, and there is no future. The psychological impact of a hopeless existence. When a person is completely deprived of hope, purpose, or any sense of a future, the impact on the mind is devastating. Most people, even in the darkest of situations, survive by holding on to something, whether it's family, the idea of freedom, or simply a dream of something better. In Black Dolphin, all of those possibilities are stripped away. There is nothing to look forward to, no progress to be made, and no light at the end of the tunnel. This leads to severe mental deterioration. Many inmates suffer from chronic depression, unable to cope with the crushing realization that their entire existence will remain exactly as it is, day after day, until they die. Others experience dissociation, detaching themselves mentally from reality as a survival mechanism. Some completely lose their sense of identity, becoming little more than shadows of their former selves, existing only because their bodies continue to function. Even prisoners who were once defiant or dangerous eventually break down under these conditions. The mind can only endure so much before it shuts down in self-defense. Inmates may develop severe psychosis, paranoia, or delusions, seeing things that are not there, hearing voices, or falling into a near catatonic state. Some prisoners refuse to speak for years, while others engage in self-harm just to feel something other than the unchanging monotony of their confinement. A life without visitors, family, or any connection to the outside world. One of the few things that gives prisoners in most institutions a sense of purpose is the ability to maintain contact with family or friends. Even hardened criminals often hold on to relationships with loved ones, writing letters, receiving visits, or making phone calls. This is not an option at Black Dolphin. Family visits are extremely rare, and many prisoners go decades without seeing or hearing from their relatives. Some families completely cut ties, unwilling to carry the emotional burden of knowing their loved one is locked away forever in one of the harshest prisons on earth. The prison itself does little to facilitate communication, and prisoners are not allowed regular phone calls or mail privileges. This further isolates them, ensuring they remain completely cut off from the world beyond the prison walls. Even news from the outside world is deliberately kept from them. There are no newspapers, no radio broadcasts, and no television access. A prisoner could spend 20, 30, or 40 years in Black Dolphin and have no idea what is happening in the world outside. They do not hear about political changes, wars, economic shifts, or even cultural trends. Time stops the moment they enter the prison, and they remain trapped in a world that is completely frozen in place. Existence without a future. For the men inside Black Dolphin, the concept of a future simply does not exist. Unlike in other prisons where inmates may mark the passage of time by counting down the days until a parole hearing or a release date, there is no countdown here. There is no final day of freedom, no goal to work toward, and no possibility of reintegration into society. Even death is not an escape, as it comes slowly, cruelly, and often unnoticed. There are no funerals, no goodbyes, and no remembrance. When an inmate dies, they are simply removed from their cell, and another prisoner takes their place. It is as if they were never there to begin with, their existence erased just as completely as their freedom. The global infamy and symbol of ultimate punishment. Black Dolphin Prison is not just another correctional facility. It is a symbol of fear, severity, and absolute punishment, both within Russia and internationally. Its name alone evokes images of total isolation, brutal conditions, and the destruction of a human spirit. Few prisons in the world have the same level of notoriety, and even fewer inspire the same sense of dread. Unlike many high-security prisons that focus on confinement while still allowing some form of rehabilitation, Black Dolphin exists solely for containment and suffering. It is widely considered one of the most brutal and unforgiving prisons on the planet, comparable only to places like ADX Florence in the United States or Diyarbakir prison in Turkey. However, what sets Black Dolphin apart is its sheer psychological torment, as well as the fact that nobody ever leaves. It is a prison without parole, without mercy, and without the possibility of redemption. A reputation built on extreme security and inhuman conditions. Black Dolphin's unparalleled security measures contribute significantly to its infamy. The prison is designed in such a way that escape is not just unlikely, it is impossible. Every aspect of the facility is engineered to break the will and resistance of those confined within it. The 90-degree transport rule. One of the most distinctive aspects of Black Dolphin is how prisoners are moved. Inmates are blindfolded, shackled, and forced to bend at a 90-degree angle while being escorted by guards. This method is not just for security. It is a deliberate form of psychological and physical humiliation. It forces prisoners into a submissive posture, breaking their will and reinforcing the idea that they have no control over their own movements. Round-the-clock surveillance. There is no privacy whatsoever in Black Dolphin. Every inmate is monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no blind spots in their cells or anywhere else in the facility. Cameras capture every movement, and guards make regular checks, ensuring that prisoners are always under unrelenting observation. Isolation as a weapon. The inmates of Black Dolphin are kept in strict solitary confinement, with no opportunity to interact with other prisoners. Even during their 90-minute daily exercise, they are placed in individual cages, ensuring that no social bonds or conversations could develop. Over time, this total lack of human connection leads to extreme psychological deterioration. These measures, while effective in maintaining control, have also solidified Black Dolphin's reputation as one of the most psychologically brutal prisons in the world. Stories of the facility's conditions have spread far beyond Russia, making it a subject of fascination, fear, and controversy on a global scale. The psychological effect on the outside world. For many people, simply hearing about Black Dolphin is enough to instill a sense of horror. The idea of being confined in a place with no hope, no human contact, and no future is terrifying. Even hardened criminals fear being sent there, knowing that a sentence in Black Dolphin means the complete erasure of their identity and humanity. This fear factor has been deliberately cultivated by the Russian penal system. The prison serves as a warning to criminals across the country, showing them that certain crimes will result in an existence worse than death. Unlike other prisons, where inmates might hold onto the possibility of escape, reform, or eventual freedom, Black Dolphin eliminates all hope. Even among prison officials and law enforcement officers, Black Dolphin carries a reputation of being the ultimate deterrent. It is the final stop for those considered beyond saving, a place where justice is delivered not through execution, but through decades of slow, deliberate psychological and physical breakdown. International fascination and media coverage. The sheer brutality of Black Dolphin has captured the attention of media, researchers, and human rights organizations worldwide. Over the years, various documentaries, news reports, and exposés have been created, attempting to provide a glimpse into this hidden world of extreme punishment. One of the most well-known media portrayals of Black Dolphin was a documentary by National Geographic, which revealed shocking details about the prison's harsh conditions, the daily lives of inmates, and the unrelenting control exercised by guards. The footage showed prisoners walking in bent positions, the claustrophobic cells, the isolation cages, and the complete lack of comfort or freedom. Despite its international notoriety, Black Dolphin remains largely hidden from public scrutiny. Unlike many Western prisons that allow limited media access and public discussions on prison conditions, Black Dolphin operates in relative secrecy. Very few outsiders have been allowed inside, and the Russian government does not frequently discuss the facility's operations. However, human rights organizations have raised concerns about the inhumane conditions within Black Dolphin. The use of sensory deprivation, extreme isolation, constant surveillance, and lack of rehabilitation efforts has led many to argue that the prison's conditions violate basic human rights. While the Russian government defends the prison as a necessary measure for dealing with the most dangerous criminals, critics argue that no human being should be subjected to such relentless psychological and physical suffering. A prison that defines the limits of human endurance. Black Dolphin has become more than just a prison. It is a test of the limits of human endurance. Few places on earth are designed to completely strip a person of hope, identity, and autonomy in the way that Black Dolphin does. Even in some of the world's most infamous prisons, inmates still find ways to retain a sense of purpose, whether through work programs, religious faith, or personal reflection. But in Black Dolphin, every aspect of existence is tightly controlled, ensuring that prisoners are reduced to nothing more than living corpses. The prison stands as a symbol of absolute punishment, a place where justice is carried out without the possibility of redemption. Its very existence forces people to ask difficult questions. Should certain criminals be completely cut off from society with no hope of ever returning? Is extreme isolation a necessary punishment, or is it a form of psychological torture? Does removing all forms of hope truly serve justice, or does it create suffering beyond what is morally acceptable? A place where hope ceases to exist. Black Dolphin Prison is more than just a maximum security facility. It is a living tomb, a place where men are condemned not just to imprisonment, but to a lifetime of psychological and physical erosion. The prison's rigid control, relentless surveillance, and total isolation create an environment that slowly drains away identity, emotion, and even the will to live. For those inside, there is no future, no rehabilitation, and no redemption. Their past crimes have defined their entire existence, and the outside world has moved on without them. They are not merely serving time. They're enduring a slow, calculated erasure. Black Dolphin stands as a stark reminder of the extremes of human punishment, raising unsettling questions about justice, morality, and the limits of human endurance. Is a life sentence in such conditions a fate worse than death? Does justice demand such total suffering, or does it cross the line into cruelty? These questions may never have simple answers, but one truth remains. Once you enter Black Dolphin, hope is not just lost, it is extinguished forever.